Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is The Advisor. Apologies for any audio inconsistencies. My headphone and microphone are broken, so I am half deaf. This video is going to be quite different than usual. I wanted to get this video out there since we are facing more armored enemies on two different fronts. Ever since the tank was added, most players don't seem to know how to operate or field the stratagem. Since there is a lapse in knowledge, there is significant fumbles that we, the players, tend to make. Whether it be dropping the tank in the middle of a firefight with no cover or treating the tank like a battering ram, no one seems to know how to operate the vehicle properly, or even like how the developers over at Arrowhead Studios want us to treat it. I initially didn't want to make this video because many others already have, but no one seems to touch on the actual military tactics that are needed for the tank. And since the Illuminate front has more complex enemies now, we need to hit them hard with our newfound equipment. In this video, I will be pulling from real-life tactics and in-game tactics since we are in a science fiction world, but we will need to establish a few things first before we do any of that. Arrowhead, as of recently, has been really obsessed with realism and a grunt fantasy game when both the description of the game and the roles that you, as a player, fill contradict that theology. But that is a video for another day. Because of that, you need to know what role of a tank destroyer is, and knowledge is half the battle. Thankfully, you don't need to do any complex math formulas to adjust for your projectile drop over distance or anything like that. Tank destroyers are a product of a phased-out era that dates back to World War II. Modern tanks act as infantry support and are designed for frontline combat, combining operational mobility and tactical offensive and defensive capabilities. Now, tank destroyers, however, are not designed for any of this. Tank destroyers are thickly armored, slow, and have a fixed turret with only a 30-degree turret radius. The tank destroyer species is specifically designed to take out enemy tanks and other armored fighting vehicles, not infantry. This means that you have a slow, thick vehicle that packs a punch. Tank destroyers are more designed for stationary defenses, not any other offensive capabilities. Additionally, tank destroyers during World War II had an average engagement distance of 450 to 900 meters, not point blank. Tank destroyers are easily overwhelmed because of their disadvantages of a fixed turret and slow mobility, so engagement at a distance with support of infantry is the goal. But we don't really see this in Helldivers 2. This is because of how the game functions. You have hordes of enemies who know where you are at all times, and if you have an enemy that knows where you are at all times, then you need to know the strengths and weaknesses of your vehicle. The tank destroyer in Helldivers 2 actually doesn't even have the benefits of a regular tank destroyer. The tank destroyer in the game is slow, has a fixed turret, medium armor with light armor spots. A tank destroyer should have thick armor and slow movement, not slow movement and thin armor. This is a giant red flag that should have been noticed long before the implementation. But regardless, what does this mean? This means that the tank sucks. But here's where the true weak spots come in. On tanks, non-mission critical equipment is stored outside, such as rations. These look like little metal boxes, but these can be shot off and do significant damage to the tank, roughly 1/8, with just light penetration weapons. This means that basically the light armored automaton enemies can destroy a tank destroyer with their light pen weapons. Additionally, the destroyer's weakness is so significant during the drop. Automatons will target the destroyer even before it lands, but when it does land, automatons will target the tank only and not the player. This means you need to plan ahead of time on a defensive route. And yes, I said defensive, not offensive. The tank destroyer absolutely needs teamwork. A typical vehicle crew is comprised of a commander, a gunner, a loader, and a driver. But since we don't need a loader, we can eliminate that role. The commander role can also be substituted for the driver since we're only working with a maximum of 4 players rather than a full tank company or infantry platoon. That means that the driver needs to be able to communicate to the gunner
300 meters, southwest.
and constantly be observing the surroundings and the chance that your squad mates are killed. If you are a driver, drive slow and do not rush into anything. Maintaining distance and marking targets while communicating with the mic is the best route possible. The turret is susceptible to being bumped over, which will also throw off your gunner's targets. Being the driver means you need to avoid fixed decor like vehicles and bodies. The tank will get stuck on them, so maneuver around them and make sure to be aware of the 30-degree turn radius. Additionally, keeping space from the enemy is crucial to mission success. Being able to pick off targets while keeping your location unbeknownst will keep you alive. But the biggest operating tactic that would be used is cover and concealment. Vox engines, tanks, and war striders are slow. So being able to maneuver around your environment to create a fatal funnel will eliminate your target. But this is just one way to do it. Another way to handle a multi-armor assault is using your environment would be flanking. This should be used against Vox engines or vast waves of enemies. By maintaining a controlled, unrushed pace that is second only to proper communication and mobility will keep the tank operational. But if you are the gunner, you should only use the 120mm cannon for buildings and tanky enemies. Researching the weak spots of the enemies is also important. In the event that you have a vehicle commander, you should stay on alert at all times, calling out enemies and commanding the rest of the crew to prioritize enemies such as hulks or Vox engines. Harkening back to earlier statements, the tank destroyer absolutely needs to be supported by infantry or infantry-like support. This really depends on the front that you are facing, but regardless, you should assist in calling out enemy forces and their location to keep the tank operational. The best infantry support that can protect the tank are the exosuits, but in the event that these can't be deployed, here are the stratagems and support weapons depending on each front.
Democracy fills my sample container.
On the bot front, having the exosuits are on top of the list, but support weapons like the grenade launcher, the spear, recoilless launcher, supported by cluster munitions, the 120mm barrage, and other anti-infantry stratagems work wonders. The Illuminate front is a little bit tricky. There is a lack of heavily armored opponents, so stalwarts and maybe one anti-tank weapon and anti-infantry stratagems are on the top list. The reason why I say maybe on the anti-tank is because you can still take down Stingrays with medium penetration weapons, and you can even destroy tripod striders using a drum mag and vertical foregrip attached to the Liberator Penetrator. Ultimately, the true mission success rests on teamwork. Most missions can be accomplished by splitting off and doing separate objectives, but in the event that shit hits the fan, teamwork is needed. This was a pretty small video. I mainly wanted to use this as a test bed for my editing techniques, but also because of the new enemies that we will be encountering on the Illuminate front. Soldiers win battles, but logistics win wars. Godspeed, Helldivers. I'll see you on the front lines.